the beginning of in the process of being contacted to direct and design this show, you both get to read the script before you get the chance to say yes to the project. And I sort of want to know what made you say yes to working on Fade and what made you part of wanting to tell this story?
I think a lot of the times, I've identified a lot of Latina, American plays, Latin American plays tend to be either border plays, like about the physical border. I don't know how many plays I've read that has a character named the Coyote. And those are important plays. There's the disaster play that's like a Hurricane Maria play in Puerto Rico. Like there are a lot of plays like that, and those are important plays. Um, uh, but rarely had I actually seen a play that kind of plays in that it kind of looks into the dynamics in a space like an office. Like how does um, our ethnic identity play out in the office space in a corporate environment in a capitalist and a very capitalist centered environment where niceties reign supreme and there's a lot of customs. um, and yeah, I thought it was like really interesting to see two people, especially one creative type, a writer, interact with someone who um, might not identify as who it's white collar and blue collar. It's there's layers to it.
But yeah, like I resonated with like the things that Lucia, the privilege that Lucia benefits from. Me being an immigrant coming from Mexico with a student visa, and then kind of staying here and developing my professional career after that. So that like resonated. The themes of like what it means to be a national from somewhere and what we think of when we hear like Mexican, even though these two people are Mexican and they have like two such different realities. Like the people from the US, when they hear Mexican, what does that mean? Like what does it like detonate, and like what keywords come up with that? And then seeing those two like aspects on stage of like two very different relationships to that nationality. There was a lot of things that kind of I've been thinking about in my personal life that I saw on script and that drew me in. And also like hearing that Armando was directing, because I've never worked with a Latino designer, like personally, one-on-one. So it was like the first time, and I was like, it's kind of weird that this is the first time that I'm just like having this experience. But I wanted to, and I was excited, and because I heard what you were doing in Teatro Chelsea, and I was excited to meet you and kind of develop a relationship that I think we're still kind of developing, and we will in tech some more. But yeah, I was excited to work with you too.
Rodrigo, do you want to talk about when the first time you two started to connect and you started to flesh out what Lucia's office space was going to look like, and sort of how the character of the space would come to life? Where did the two of you start connecting in the beginning process with the design?
If I remember correctly, we first like had a meeting, and then we just introduced each other, and we had a conversation, and we were like, who are you? What do you do? Like, so we bonded. We first like met and like approached it as like getting to know each other as people. After that, I think we started then talking about the plays and the themes that we're talking about, that we were talking about earlier, of white supremacy culture in the workplace, like nationality, privilege, Latina, like respectability politics, all of these things. And we just kept feeding of each other's like thoughts, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we
I
were like,
mean,
yes.
it was, kind of this kind of test run of having a conversation about the play and seeing how excited we could make each other about it. And I think we obviously got each other excited. I just remember, yeah, just having these conversations. I always like to, one of the benefits of being doing theater, and like one of the best highlights of it is that um, you get to bring yourself into it. You get to actually, it requires you to bring a piece of yourself, or put as much as you're willing or able to put onto the stage, in some way, shape, or form. Whether that be you, an actor, um, director, designer. Like, we're all putting ourselves on there. Or some part of our identity and our our internal ethical, moral code, and our politics are on there. What I love about designers and good designers like Rodrigo, is that they can always kind of teach me something. And something that Rodrigo said very early, I think it was in that first meeting, is this idea of, that the question of, are artists vultures? Um, this idea of like scavenging stories, and scavenging ideas. And I think that statement has rung true to me. It's like it's had echoes in how, I know that like a lot of even my blocking that I just started to do, like, and the way that the set is that room is designed now. It kind of, I look at Lucia in some respect, like, what if she, like, if her spirit animal was a vulture? Which I think is like something interesting, to think about, like, you know, that those are surprises, that and statements that can sort of, again, have ripple effects across not only the design space but right into the the acting and directing portion.
But we didn't go into like the technicalities and needs of like, I need this person to come in downstage, right? And it was more about like the feelings of the play. And then that informed, obviously, then what, like the physical space. Because we also talked, Armando was interested in like that feeling of kind of closing in and like kind of claustrophobic, I think it's the word. But just like this feeling that we're seeing these two people, and like I don't know what the words are to describe this, but like this, um, and so that feeling helped communicate, or like helped filter the design of what the actual space would look like. And also like the themes of like Lucia is coming into this workplace that is kind of structured in white supremacy. She's coming into this place to develop her professional relationship. And then she adapts to that space to kind of push herself up or through, probably up. So that also was like, what does this space look like before she gets there? And then when she gets there, what happens to the space? And at the end, how does that space transform her, or vice versa?
It's one thing to come to a design space with, I want four walls and I want this, and you want things. Um, that doesn't really give, that is valid in some respect, but I think, um, you bear much more fruit. We still are bearing fruit from keeping our ideas, um, rooted in symbols, metaphors, uh, kind of, ideologies. Uh, that's what we keep coming back to.
One of the things that we've been, there are a couple things that seem to be cementing um, this design, as you've mentioned. We have both of the characters navigating the white supremacist structures of their workplace, and that sort of exists in the character of the scenic design, as well as like, this is a play about two people getting to know each other and growing closer, and we also have a space that is naturally pushing them closer. And Rodrigo, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about, you know, those aspects of the set, that environment, and how the set sort of represents that white supremacy, and also this like pushing in and getting closer, and this claustrophobia that seems to be so important.
I was trying to approach it in different layers. So there's like the actual needs, which is an office space, which I was drawing inspiration from those images. Then there was a layer of thematically, we both agreed that we didn't want like the set is an office space, period. You know, like we wanted to kind of evoke a feeling of the themes. And what I was trying to kind of evoke with the set is also my personal identity and like response to the play and those themes. So the fact that there were like 3 windows at the back of the office, I kept being drawn to that image, and I was like, why is that? And then I think it was because I was trying to evoke the feeling of the flag, the Mexican flag, that's like 3 vertical colors. And then drawing inspiration from like papel picado in like the design of the frosted design of the window. So I was trying to like sneak in things that like felt connected to me. And also the set is also elevated on a platform that's like 3 steps onto the that then makes the office, because we wanted the space to feel like small and enclosed, because this is Lucia's like first office in the space. So she wouldn't have like a big office. So after those conversations, I started looking into work office spaces. And I was drawn, because of our conversation, to kind of like the aesthetic of like the very generic cookie cut aesthetic of office spaces. And Armando like mentioned how like there's a whole like philosophy of design of like how to make workplace more efficient, and like these open space office and stuff like that, that ultimately I question if, you know, how efficient and how human those spaces are.
You know, we know that there's like this philosophy of like campuses. You know, we hear about Apple and Facebook, even Pixar. Like they have campuses that evoke this like kind of like it's still a learning environment. It keeps keeps it fresh and young. But there is something strange about that in certain respects. When that makes its way into into spaces and organizations that do not, in practice, institutionally practice those philosophies, but they like the idea of it, which I think is a very common criticism of corporations, is that there's always a lot of empty gestures, a lot of performing. Um, you know, something akin to like when an easy one is like when all the companies bring out their rainbow logos for Pride Month. It's like cool, like I guess you're an ally, but like do your institutional like can I see the data for like what is the like the percentage of employees that identify as LGBTQIA, that what is your retention rate of those things? What's your burnout rate? Do you like those aren't stats they want to reveal all the time. And I think that lends itself tangentially to ideas that revolve around the set. I think for me, one thing I see a lot in office spaces, there used to be the cubicle, the fake dividing. Now it's just a lot of glass. I have found is a lot of spaces with glass. That's that no space is private, though we pretend that it is. And so I really like that about Lucia's office, is that she she has her own office. It's very tiny. So it's still her own office, but there's never really a sense of privacy. Like she can't, at any moment her boss could walk in and or her walk just doesn't have to walk in. Her boss could walk by or a coworker could walk by and see what she's doing.
It's intrusive. Like there's no personal boundaries. Like your work is your life. And that's pure white supremacy, especially for artists. Like artists are expected to like, because it's your art, because it's your passion and what, you're an artist and you're what you do, then your work should consume your life. And like,
I always think it's kind of like it's a little sneaky sometimes, like that when offices they provide a lot of lounge, like really comfortable couches and they create like relaxation spaces, and it's like they want to make it feel homey. I wonder why. So maybe so you don't go home, so that you conveniently fall asleep on your couch. Like why does the play takes place, it never takes place during the workday, though we can assume that Lucia has been working the entire day.
I was going to say, I think one of the most exciting things about the set, and Rebecca and I were talking about this yesterday, is like we're having all these conversations about how this play largely looks at how two people either put each other in boxes or are taking each other out of the boxes and like what their box in the world is. And then I go inside the theater and I look at the set that's being built and it's a box. It's largely, a total manifestation of the themes that are already being discussed. So it's sort of, it's really exciting to see the design come to fruition. And just by looking at it, you can see all of the things that both of you are talking about.
In some respects, this is a kind of a funny variation or an interpretation of what a border play is. Border in a different definition as a physical barrier, a divider. And I think a lot of the set reflects that. And one thing I love is that these are transparent dividers, because in reality, a lot of the socioeconomic and social borders and cultural borders that we talk about, they're not geographical. They are created. Mm-hmm. Ones that are unseen, but that very much exist.
Like Tanya is evoking these feelings and these conversations through words, and I guess our job is to do that through visual, through sculpture or architecture, or just like a physical thing, which is complicated. But I think like the things that I'm most excited about is like these conversations. Like I'm excited for us having these conversations, and that hopefully people getting out of the theater after seeing it will have those conversations. Because something that I think about constantly that Armando said is like, yes, this is about like these two people's identity, but that is like Mexican identity, what they identify as, but it also goes larger than that. Like the specificity of the script goes through, and like I think everyone can relate to it.
In a very real way, I love a play that makes me want to reach in and stop what's happening. And so they have this box, but the walls aren't there. The walls are imaginary. And at any point in our own lives, we can reach beyond that wall, because it's not real. It isn't real. We've created it. So I guess I hope people can finally see past the veneer of the wall, the fake walls that our culture and our societies, both ethnically, culturally, economically, otherwise,
geographically.
Let's the borders aren't real. they are created.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for talking about this. One of the reasons I was so eager to have this conversation is like I think one of the great things about Fade is not only is Tanya really exploring the characters. And, you know, one of the things we love to do at the kitchen is bring plays that really allow us to invest in characters and really see the humanity and psychology behind them. But like this play is such an exploration of the actual physical space and the metaphors that come with that. And so I think this conversation has really highlighted all of the really wonderful things that come along with the set for this one. So thank you both again for this really wonderful conversation.